Hello and welcome to this episode of the High Growth Equation, where we explore the formula for channel partner success. I'm your host, Lawrence Roberts. Cloud is transformational in the right hands, but left unchecked, unmanaged costs can absolutely spiral. Now, I like to use analogies in these sort of things. And I think if we look at cloud can be compared to going into a restaurant. So when you go into a restaurant, you get presented with a menu, and there's lots of fantastic dishes. Cloud offers lots of amazing cloud-based services. Now, you can pick what you want off the menu, but if you don't have an eye on the price, you could choose all these different dishes, but at the end of your meal, you're going to have a huge bill. Similarly with cloud, if you don't manage or if you aren't careful with what you're selecting and you're managing those costs, you could end up with an unpleasant surprise at the end of the month. So spinning up cloud resources without visibility and accountability is not something that you really want to be doing. Now, here's where we all have that friend when we go to a restaurant to say, do you really want to order that dish? In the cloud space, our friend is a thing called FinOps. FinOps is that friend that stops you ordering blindly and helps you track what you're spending. Now, to help us take a deep dive into FinOps, I am super excited to be joined by two very special guests, two real giants in the TD SYNNEX world. So Jan de Kok and David Jordan. Thank you, gentlemen. It is a real privilege to have you both on the High Growth Equation. Would you mind explaining a bit about your roles here at TD SYNNEX?
Want me to go first? So I'm David Jordan. I'm the CFO of TD SYNNEX. Thanks for having me. I think it's a super interesting conversation. It's always fun working with both you guys. So thanks again.
Thank you. Jan.
And I'm Jan de Kok. I'm the VP of our AWS Global Partnership and our FinOps go-to-market. Basically, I focus on supporting the regions and driving consistency, best practices, and of course, reducing duplication. And again, thanks for inviting me to this conversation.
No, it's a real pleasure to have you guys. And your knowledge and expertise around this is just phenomenal. So I'm going to start off with a couple of questions. So Jan, my first question is for you. From a partner perspective, can you explain what FinOps is and why it's so important for partners to understand about FinOps right now?
Sure. And actually, your analogy to the restaurant was spot on, but in a very simple way to explain what FinOps is. FinOps helps organizations use the cloud the way they intended without any surprises. Cloud spend has become the number one challenge for the organizations. 84% rank it above security. And FinOps is simply about making cloud spending smarter. So think about bringing together finance, IT, and business teams so everyone knows what's being spent, why, especially how it supports the business goals. So cloud spending is exploding, especially with AI. And without the visibility and accountability, companies can easily waste between 20 and 30% of what they spend in cloud. And basically, FinOps turns the cloud spending from a cost center into a value engine.
Yeah, makes sense. So super, super important. David, I've got a question for you. I mean, you're global CFO of one of the largest distributors in the world. So in terms of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, why is that visibility into cloud spend so critical for financial leaders today? And how does the accurate forecasting impact the decisions that you make in your role?
So when you think about, just your overall IT budget, as Jan mentioned, cloud and your data center and kind of everything that goes in and around it is a very material part of the overall budget. And if you're not careful, you can have one of two outcomes. You can have a runaway train on spending, or you can have business leaders that don't have what they need to be fully optimized and productive. And so by having a real good visibility, not only at the total level, but what the underlying drivers are, you can make a lot better business decisions. And in many cases, if you really use the tool right and you take the kind of triangle approach that Jan talked about between IT, the business teams, the finance teams, you can really drive the most possible output at a reasonable total cost. And so that's ultimately the value. But being able to accurately understand what's going on both today and tomorrow, I think is a real critical role. And it's a necessary thing for the finance teams.
Yeah, that runaway train thing is really important. I mean, there's a lot of talk about people vibe coding their own applications today and running them in cloud environments. And so, with what we call as AI factories with agents, I mean, you can see the costs just spiraling if there's no sort of control in there. Really interesting. Jan, I have another question for you. Obviously, in your global role, you have a huge visibility of what's going on in the channel with partners and things. What do you see as the main misconceptions from partners around FinOps?
Well, there are a few big misconceptions that I and my team hear all the time. The first one is that FinOps is just about saving money. It is not. FinOps is really about maximizing business value, making sure that the cloud investments are supporting the outcomes that the business cares about. Another misconception is that FinOps is just a tool or just a dashboard. Yes, tools help. It helps us to automate things and have better visibility, but tools alone don't create accountability, don't fix the processes, or align finance with IT and business teams. FinOps only works when the team collaborates and treat cloud as a shared responsibility. And then the third one is basically that partners sometimes think that FinOps requires a huge investment to start. The truth is, with the right support, they can begin offering FinOps services immediately and build a profitable, recurring managed services around it. So not only becoming the trusted advisor for the end customers, but actually bringing new business value and profit streams to their companies.
Brilliant. No, awesome. Thank you for that explanation. David, do you see any sort of misconceptions around FinOps in your space?
So maybe I'll go at it two ways. One is, I believe using FinOps gives you a deeper understanding of what's going on both today and potentially what you're contemplating to make a better decision. So I'll give you a really good example in finance. We're implementing a new tool and it's cloud-based, and the team came and said, hey, the tool's cloud-based. I immediately freaked out. And I said, oh, no, it's so expensive. Like, let's run it in our data center. And they said, Dave, you're missing the point. Let's just assume it's 4 times the cost. I'm just making up a number. That's probably not accurate, but bear with me for a second. If it's 4 times more expensive, but you're only using it for 2 days a month, you're actually saving 50 cents on the dollar by putting this type of a workload in the cloud. They can get to that answer through FinOps because they really understand, here's what it would cost in a cloud-based environment. And so I was mind blown because my whole thought was, hey, I'm going to buy this piece of software and we're going to run it in the cloud and then I'm going to have a runaway train, when in fact, me putting it in the cloud was actually over half the cost that we had traditionally spent running these processes in our own data centers. For us, it went from a headwind to a tailwind really, really quickly. And like any good team, we're always up against, there's only so much capacity you can get allocated. And so if you can really optimize the workloads that you have and the total cost of managing those, you should end up doing one of two things: saving money or potentially getting more to alleviate any capacity constraint that you may have thought you had. So it was a huge benefit to us and a big eye opener for me. I mean, the other misconception, I think Jan pointed it out, is this isn't a cost management tool, but I would also encourage partners to think about, how do you leverage that to be part of your discussions? Because if you're meeting with somebody like me, if you notice, my natural reaction was, oh, that's expensive, dodge it like the plague. Mm-hmm. Well, the truth is, with a detailed dashboard and a fact base, you can have a much more meaningful conversation. And then you're actually helping the end user ultimately reduce their overall total cost of ownership, which is a flat out home run. I mean, if you can save me a nickel and still get my teams what they need, I'm all in, right? And so I think figuring out ways to make that part of your go-to-market and potentially charge for it if you find savings is a huge win for both TD SYNNEX and our customers.
Yeah, no, absolutely makes sense. I mean, it seems like that from what you guys are saying is that FinOps is a sensible way of approaching cloud, something that should absolutely be considered.
I think it's a necessary way to approach cloud. If you're not using it, you really should. You think about all of the benefits, and yeah, it takes a little time to ramp, but as Jan said, the value that can be created and the savings and transparency that gets created for people that need to manage those invoices, it's well worth the investment.
Jan, you and David have explained some amazing things around FinOps and why it's so important now for partners. So for partners that actually want to get started with FinOps, can you explain firstly how they can start embedding FinOps into their service offerings? And secondly, how to reach out to TD SYNNEX to get going?
Great question. So for partners, the first step is not to think about FinOps as a standalone add-on, but something that there naturally fits into every cloud conversation, just like David was mentioning before. So optimization, governance, migration, AI, managed services is basically all of it. Partners can start small, can start by helping the customers to understand where the cloud spend is going, identifying waste, of course, forecasting upcoming usage, and definitely recommending actions like right-sizing or leveraging the saving plans that the hyperscalers offer. Those small steps are the foundation to build a recurring managed FinOps services. And that's where actually TD SYNNEX plays a huge role. We offer them and lead with a comprehensive practice. So basically helping them to build their FinOps practice with a service in a box. So not only the tools, so we provide enterprise-grade platform, analytics, playbooks, certified expertise with our COE, Center of Excellence, and of course, ongoing optimization services. So with that, partners can start FinOps value immediately without needing to build them everything themselves from scratch. And then actually they can launch a service, grow it, and eventually evolve into a full FinOps practice at their own pace. So basically we meet the partner where they are in this FinOps practice journey and help them, again, build this new stream of service and profit, becoming the trusted advisor for that end customer.
Perfect. Well, Jan, David, I think we've come to the end of our questions today, but thank you so much for your input and talking about FinOps. It really is a really important subject for our partners to be all over. So thank you guys. For partners listening to this, if you want to find out more about FinOps, please reach out to the TD SYNNEX teams. Any of the teams or the cloud teams can especially help you. Until next time, take care and thank you again. Bye-bye.